This is the Fold 3, the 2-year-old foldable flagship from Samsung. The sequel, the Fold 5, launched just a few weeks ago. Is the Fold 3 still worth buying 2 years later? Is this a phone like an aged whiskey, seasoned to perfection, or has it curled like spoiled milk? We're going to be comparing this seasoned Fold 3 against this beautiful Fold 5. Hey Mom. Yes, I'm eating my vegetables. Straight up comparison between the two would be a soft so I'm scoring a 2. Also adding a cost-benefit factor. So, we've got a basic Samsung foldable design, almost 10 ounces, and folded 160 by 67 by 40.4 mm. Unfolded, as you might expect. The width doubles, and the thickness is cut in half. The front and back of the phone are scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass, with an aluminum frame, and there's very little difference between the Fold 3 and the Fold 5 in this regard. The folded phone feels good in your hand, and it's easy to hold. It's nice, smooth curves and easy lines. But it looks weird, oddly narrow and very tall shaped. And I've had more than one person ask me what kind of phone this is, and not in a good way. But from the looks of it, the Fold 5 is designed the same way, with the same tall, narrow features of the Fold 3. Both are very similar. And at a glance, I could mistake the Fold 5 for the Fold 3. Well, maybe not. It's Fold 5. So, for design, it's a draw. Also, not surprising is that both phones have the IPX8 water resistance rating, which means that they can be submerged in 1.5 meter water for 30 minutes. Although, I wouldn't recommend that with this seasoned phone. Oh, and there's no dust resistance, indicated by the X in IPX8. No surprise, given how soft the inner display is. That's that. Even after 2 years, the hinges work well and they still have a lot of friction and resistance. When I first got the phone, I was worried it would wear out and the screens would just kind of flop around, but that's not the case. I have to say, after 2 years of continuous use, the smooth opening of the screen and the hinges has turned a bit into a crackling and fuss sound. I don't know if you can hear that. It doesn't sound completely smooth anymore, but let's be honest, 2 phone years is basically 70 human years, so if I still sound this good when I'm that age, I won't be complaining. Oh, my back! The overall build quality and design, it's a draw. Both phones have stereo speakers on the top and on the bottom, are supported by Dolby Atmos, and the speaker drivers are tuned by AKG. And the phone sounds alright. Nothing special as far as I'm concerned. The volume is good and it sounds clear, but I still prefer headphones when I get the chance. Also, as with all phones nowadays, there is no headphone jack. All in all, for sound, it's another draw. Now it's time to dive into what's really important. Oh, hang on. That's better. Like I said, now it's time to dive into what's really important. I'm talking about the oomph, the panache, the muscle, the brawn, the... I'll stop talking about the chip spec. Time immemorial, Samsung has used the Snapdragon for its flagship phones. We're gonna talk about the Exynos chipset. And so too for the Fold 3 and the Fold 5. Both of them use the Snapdragon processor. Respectively, the phones use the Snapdragon 888 5G 5nm processor with the Adreno 666 GPU. And the Fold 5 uses the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 4nm tech. There's a lot of technical speak just to say that you're going to get a significant boost in performance with the Fold 5 and the new chipset. Let's take a look. Here's a comparison that I found on nanoreview.net showing exactly that. The Fold 5 chipset, as expected, outperforms the Fold 3 chipset in nearly every benchmark, from CPU to gaming. And the only thing that's a close match is the battery. Before moving on, I just want to do one other general graphics and CPU benchmark test, the 3D, which I personally use. The Fold 3 actually holds its own to many other phones in the recommended tests. Before making an official ruling, let's take a look at some of specs first. Both phones, 12 gigs of internal RAM, with the Fold 3 using LPDDR5 and the Fold 5 using LPDDR5X, which is about 33% fast. It's becoming a bit of a one-sided story. Hang in there, we're almost there. The last item on the menu is flash storage. Let's start with the Fold 3. It offers 256 gigs or 512 gigs of non-expandable USF 3.1 flash memory. And the Fold 5 offers 256, 512 or 1 terabyte non-expandable USF 4.0 flash memory. Say it quick and dirty, you can double the writing and reading speed with the Fold 5. And that's that. Alright, now it's that. So all in all, Fold 5 took the 3's lunch and ate it, and there was nothing the Fold 3 could do about it. That's not to say that the Fold 3 is a slouch by any sense of the imagination. And it still plays games like Fortnite or PUBG without even breaking a sweat. Oh shit. Hang on, I need to finish this level. Opening apps, moving around on the home screen, playing video games, everything still feels nice and snappy. And that's after 2 years of hard use. So I think it really depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a powerhouse of speed and graphics, this Fold 5 is your device. Yeah, but if you don't want to spend around $1,800, the Fold 3 can get you a very well-performing phone for maybe $600 or $700. All in all, coming as a surprise to exactly no one, the Fold 5 takes the cake again. Screens. things, not unimportant. First, there's the cover display. The screen you see when the phone is folded up. It's a dynamic AMOLED screen for both the phones, with a refresh rate of up to 120 Hz. Both phone screens are equal in size, with the Fold 5 having a tiny leg up in pixel density. And of course, the outer screen uses scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass. Although after 2 years I can tell you the scratch resistance is starting to wear off. Let's take a look at where it matters. The inner screen. When I first got this phone, I was worried about scratches. But what I was really nervous about was the fold itself. Even though the folding plastic has a rating of up to 200,000 folds, I thought it would be cracking if I used it too much. Let's do some math. Say you keep the phone for 3 years, that's 3 times 265 days, coming down to 1,095 days, in which then you could fold the phone 200,000 divided by 1095 is 182 times per day. If we do some further math, by 24, by 182, this would mean in those 3 years to get the screen to crack, you would have to fold the phone every 8 minutes.
Wow.
For 3 long years. It's a lot of folding. So that's not really a concern. But what is more of a concern is your screen detaching and air making its way under the screen. As you can see here, what happened with mine. Still works just fine, but it's not the eye catcher it once was. But enough about that. For both phones, we're talking about 7.6-inch AMOLED screens, with the Fold 5 having a slight advantage in the screen-to-body ratio, 91.1% versus the Fold 3's 88.8%. The screens are crisp and look good. Well, that was before the air bubble incident. It's mostly a draw, but I'll give the point to the Fold 5, because it has bigger screens and higher pixel density for both screens. The camera setup for both phones is similar. There's the main triple camera setup on the back, with Fold 5 having a significantly upgraded camera. The wide camera went from 12 to 50 megapixels, and the telephoto lens losing a bit of overall resolution, but gaining optical zoom from 2 to 3x, which is probably more valuable. Most video settings stay the same, with the exception of 8K and 30 frames per second. But who shoots video in 8K on a cell? You'll just end up with these massive files. I actually use my phone for most videos on YouTube, and this is filmed using the cover camera. The selfie camera on the inside stays the same, using a 4 megapixel f1.8. And lastly, there's the cover camera, which I just talked about a little bit, and it stays the same for both phones. At a respectable 10 megapixel f2.8. But on the Fold 5, it does have the option for video to go to 4K 60 versus the original 4K 30. Check out these pictures, taken with the 3 different cameras. Not bad for a phone. Low light shots, as on most phones, become more problematic. Here's an example. Last night, in my backyard, cameras galore. And the Fold 5 is the clear winner, with its main triple camera setup in the back. But again, the price point is something to keep in mind. The upgrade from 12 to 50 megapixel warrant that extra $1,000 in the price tag? I'm not so sure. Either way, the point goes to the Fold 5. Both phones have a non-removable 4400 mAh lithium polymer battery. In the tests, again, our nano review, shows that the Fold 5 has a bit of an edge, probably because of the more efficient chipset it uses. The endurance test shows 75 hours versus 95 hours for the Fold 3 and the Fold 5 respectively. Or for something like video playback, we have 13 and 16 hours respectively. So again, there's a small difference, but nothing groundbreaking. Also, I can confirm that the battery still holds up pretty well, even after 2 years of use. I use the phone for gaming, web browsing, YouTube, Spotify, Audible, all day long. And I usually make it all the way through without a recharge. Both phones have USB-C 25-watt fast charging, which charges the phone from 0 to 50 in about half an hour. Fully charging the phone usually still takes upwards of 90 minutes or so, because it reduces higher charging power near higher charge. And both phones support wireless charging, as you would expect. Oh, also, the power button works as a fingerprint scan, which I love, and I didn't really know where to put that. Overall, another wash. The Fold 5 has a slight upper hand with the battery, but I would say it's about equal. Not something I would buy a Fold 5 for. Lastly, it's the software. Both phones use Samsung's One UI 5.1, basically an Android overlay or skin based on Android 13. And I think the Fold 3 won't get any further upgrades except for maybe a few security rollouts. Where the Fold 5 is obviously still going to get a few years worth of upgrades. Not much to say here, as the software at the moment is exactly the same between the two. Not to go too deep, but One UI gives you a lot of customization options like themes. Take a look at these beauties. Then there's Samsung Decks, which lets you hook up your phone to a mouse, keyboard or monitor, and boom, it's a computer. Very handy. There's edge panels, key customization, and then of course there's the Galaxy Store, which is things like Fortnite, which is not on the Google Play Store anymore. Fast and snappy. And even after downloading 2 years worth of junk and grinding my phone to a halt, apps open up quick. And like we talked about earlier, I haven't found a game yet that the phone can't play. And I play a lot of games. Software is comfortable and easy to understand, although I might be biased since I've had Samsung for years. And then there's the Bixby Assistant, which admittedly I don't use much, but does have some pretty cool features like this. Hi Bixby, can you tell me a joke?
was going to give someone a ticket for illegal sledding, but he decided to let them slide.
Alright, so in those lame jokes, what more do you want from an assistant? Aside from the basic assistant stuff like telling lame dad jokes and setting an alarm, adding reminders, taking screenshots and things like that, you can for example adjust the brightness, reply to an email or control certain apps, like for example it can post Instagram posts to you or TikTok videos, things like that. So it can do more in-depth things than most phone assistants can. Pretty cool. And that's it for the software. I think that's another draw. It's both phones have the same software and Bixby Assistant. Alright, we made it guys. That was the Fold 3 review 2022. As expected, the Fold 5 won in pretty much every area. But what I think matters is by how much. And in most cases, the Fold 3 put up a very respectable fight for the 2-year-old phone. And if you're in the market for a foldable that's affordable, I would say you could do a whole lot worse than the Fold 3. Who needs the Fold 5, really? And that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like, subscribe and all that stuff. And if you're looking for another video, check out this one to see what kind of scary games the AI recommended I play. And I hope to see you in the next one.